Yes, it's all right, and it's okay to be excited about silver today. It's done very well. We're going to talk about silver's bull run and why the rally is likely not over yet. But we're also going to sprinkle in a bit of realism as well as we look at silver and what's ahead for the metal. Let's talk about it as we explore. There is reason to celebrate because silver has just passed, just days ago, before a little recent pullback, an all-time high since 2012. Now, as we know, there's a lot of headroom for silver to move from here. And that's exactly why it's okay to be a little bit excited, because all of the fundamentals are heading in that direction. I'm going to be referencing a piece from Barron's that gives us some insight on what's going on with the silver rally that we find ourselves a part of these days. Silver has just hit its highest price in more than a decade, and growing demand and falling interest rates mean it could have more room to run. Of course, those aren't the only reasons, but they are very strong reasons why it's looking good for silver, no question. Just this past week, silver hit $32.43 an ounce, which was the highest price since 2012. The metal is up 35% so far this year, and that beats the 30% rally that we're seeing for gold, which has been trading at all-time highs. Both silver and gold have benefited from the Federal Reserve's shifting stance on interest rates, also known as the Powell pivot, and they pivoted big time with the 50 basis point rate cut. Policymakers lowering these rates earlier this month for the first time in 4 years. The Federal Reserve isn't the only central bank, by the way, taking this action. The People's Bank of China recently announced its own rate cut, which helped fuel a broad rally, which included metals as well as stocks. While investors frequently buy gold and silver as safe haven assets, they don't offer up any yields like treasuries and other types of bonds. As a result, when yields decline, metals become comparatively more attractive. Investors expect the Fed to continue cutting rates well into 2025. Future market data suggests that the federal funds rate will hit 3.25% or below by next September, down from 5.25% and to 5.5% before the Fed's half-point cut earlier this month. And if you go look at the Fed Watch tool, you can see all of the probabilities that are for these rate cuts, and that can only really help embolden gold and silver. Now, does that mean that there's not going to be any more dips in the markets? No, there will be, of course. Just as we've seen over the past 7-8 months, we see the metals move up and then scale back. Think of it like taking 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. There's always a step ahead, and that's kind of what we can see with the silver market. We see higher lows for silver, and it's those higher lows that we have to focus on rather than the massive peaks or big movements from day to day. 5% move is massive in one day, but likely that means a correction is coming. One caveat for silver bulls: investors have been expecting rate cuts all year. So a lot of this stuff is kind of baked in there. Given silver's strong performance year to date, at least some gains from future rate cuts are likely baked in today's prices. And again, as I mentioned, that we will see corrections as well in the market, much as we saw even just recently on Friday. People taking profits and consolidating, corrections. Silver also stands to benefit from other tailwinds, including increasing demand. The commodity plays a significant role in the global economy's transition to green energy, which is a key component in things like electric vehicles and solar panels. Of course, the EV market is in trouble right now, and that has stifled some of the demand that silver has, but other things as well in electronics and other areas, especially with the potential for solid-state silver batteries down the pike. That made big news for a while. If that does take off, well, that could mean massive amounts of demand for up to a kilo per vehicle if that were to occur. But that's in a perfect world. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, by the way. The earliest estimates in some vehicles by 2027. And so the Silver Institute, which is a trade group, forecasts industrial demand for silver will increase about 9% this year. Well, here's your little dose of realism. The Silver Institute is overly optimistic. I mean, given the type of nature of what they are, and it's in their best interest that silver does well. And so some of the numbers that they provide, a lot of people have a lot of skepticism for. And so I think it's a good idea to get information from different sources in that regard. And the most conservative groups say that that we're not quite at a deficit in supply yet, but we're getting closer. The gap is narrowing, and likely probably even the most conservative estimates in the next couple of years, if things continue with green energy type of mandates from some of these governments, that we will, and military applications as well, we could see a supply deficit coming next year or the year after. The market for silver is especially strong in China, according to Citigroup, which estimates silver demand has increased 20% year over year in recent months, largely driven by production of electric vehicles, solar panels, and other electronics in Japan or in China. So when you think about Chinese demand, and we know there's a lot of demand for unrefined silver as well too, bypassing the markets, and that is still has driven up the Shanghai Gold Exchange price of silver, which is exceeds by a couple of dollars our Western market price. China fundamental demand is booming, according to Citi analyst Maximilian Leighton and Vasawanthathro Kamitri said in a recent note. That with some hiccups and some of with stimulus coming from the Chinese government because their economy is in trouble. It has not stifled demand, though, apparently. But there was a thought that it did because it did bring prices down in a trading session. I remember reporting on it. One source of demand that hasn't picked up yet, but could if prices remain elevated, is from U.S. investors. Investor flows into iShares Silver Trust exchange-traded fund were negative for most of 2024, before ticking up sharply in the past 3 months when $770 million rushed into the $14 billion fund. And, that's just it. A lot of people look at the SLV, look at other exchange-traded products out there, and we know what's going on there, the derivatives market. It's not silver that they are investing in. It's essentially exposure to the price of silver. Still, the vast majority of the recent inflows came in just the past 2 days, which suggests bulk buying by hedge fund traders. I've also talked about that in the past, rather than small investors who tend to trickle in money over time. When it comes to silver, individual investors may just be starting to pay attention. And so if that is the case, well, that means that we very well could be, if these big hedge fund traders are really starting to focus right now on silver, then it's just a matter of time, who maybe they see something here coming, and silver is like a juggernaut that will just keep going up. Now, again, I'm not saying that silver is going to go to the moon, so to speak. But one thing is for sure, with all of the different fundamentals that we just talked about, with the prospect of a declining economic activity, to put it mildly, if we find a mild recession along with persistent and increasing inflation because of what the Fed has done, and we could find ourselves in a stagflationary environment with heavy job losses and continued inflation. That will not bode well, which could lead to further economic and even a deep recession. And I think that will bode well probably for both precious metals as well. That will be leading us into 2025 and 2026. And it'll be very interesting to see how things play out on the economic front. With money printing continuing, quantitative easing, which was a contributor to the 2011 price increase, and there's a lot of different factors and fundamentals at play, especially when you look through the history of silver's price. There are two big periods. The beginning part of the first decade of the millennium, from 2002 through all the way to 2007, that part was very, very stagnant silver prices and undervalued big time. And then we move to the latter part of the last decade. Well, we did see silver's price trade regularly below $20 an ounce for a couple of years. In fact, it was 2016 was the last time it went up to $30. And I remember since then until 2020, or 2019 when they started to pick up again and then fell. Now, if you look at a chart, well, the lowest of the highs has been in the mid 20s here of the past couple of, through the 2022, 2023, and up above $20. So I think we've solidified. Higher lows is a good sign that we may very well could see silver prices sustain or go up higher. So what am I thinking for silver? Well, I'm thinking that silver very well could continue to outpace gold, as gold has really reached its all-time high nominally. Silver has a long way to go when adjusted for inflation, obviously, but it's got a long way to go even nominally in price. So silver, I think, should be trading right now at this moment in time at $35 an ounce. It's not, obviously, and it may not get there this year, even though I have made a prediction that I think we will see that by this year in 2024. But even if it doesn't, I still think if we see $33, $34 silver start to solidify into 2025, that's a very good sign, because the resistance is at $32.50. And if we stay beyond that resistance, I think it's going to be very, very good for silver. So don't lose heart, don't lose hope, but expect the expected as well as the unexpected when it comes to silver. What can we expect with silver? We can expect silver's price to correct, to fall back a bit. There will be moments of defeat in the silver's price where we could see it fall, maybe as much as $1 or $2 in a day, only to recapture those gains within the next week. And I think that's the kind of thing we're going to be seeing, where it's going to be volatile, no question about it. But volatility means that it's really, in a sense, kind of a healthy market, considering everything that's going on today. And we haven't even discussed geopolitics. And I think only things are going to get even more strained as we head into 2025. So there you have it. Let me know what your thoughts are about the silver market and its rally and my optimism. Do you share that sentiment, or do you feel completely differently about silver? Let me know in the comment section down below. Hope you found this video informative, insightful, and educational. And I would like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch, and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.